All right, my friends. So I'm going to answer a question for this particular camera, the Tasco 7800, on how to basically take pictures with it. And later in the video, we have to get a little bit technical so that you understand what's going on. And what we have here is going to be a some numbers here that you'll see with this dial or this knob here that turns. And what this is measuring is the feet and 165 feet or 50 meters. Okay. From that point here to infinity, which means it should be all in focus. If you get closer to something, you'd have to move it down like this, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But step one is to put it to infinity. All right. Then step two is to focus the eyepieces here. Now, these are independent focusers. So the fancy word for that is going to be diopters. And you do it the normal way where you block one and you focus one. Then you block the other one and you focus the other one. And that's it. You don't touch them. Now, this dial basically turns into nothing more than a regular old center roller focuser. Okay, if you're far away, looking at something far away, you do this, and if you get closer and closer and closer to something, you do this to focus it. Okay, so this becomes your main focuser. Now, in this particular binocular camera, it looks as though you can get only as close as maybe 30, 33 feet. If you get closer than that, you probably won't be able to focus it. And I've discussed that in other video binocular um, reviews where it's some of them are 25 feet, 50 feet, 15 feet. So for this one, it looks like it's about 30, 33 feet before you can get any closer. Now, we are going to be looking at, and of course, you take the picture and then advance it here, and it'll tell you, you can see how many pictures you've taken. So you have this diagram here, DIN, and it shows you F16, F numbers, this side or the other, these little pictures of sun with some landscape stuff, sunny day, cloud, a little bit of sunny through the clouds and a darker cloudy day. Those same numbers and pictures are on this side, but this side says ASA. These numbers are different, and what these numbers basically are the film speed, 100, 200, 400 speed film. And of course, on this side, they were numbered in a different way because this is the European number style. But all this stuff seems to be the same. So DIN means Deutsches Institut der Nermag or something like that. The German Standardization Institute. What are they standardizing? We'll figure it out in a second. ASA stood for American Standardization Association. So what were they standardizing? Both of these, Europe and the United States. They were basically coming into a decision as to what is 10 on the light meter on your gauge, what is 11 on your light meter as a gauge, what is actually 12, or what is actually 30 miles an hour, what is actually, do you say it's 29 miles an hour and we say it's 30 miles an hour, but you're going the same speed? Okay, so they came to an agreement that um, uh, this is an old style of measuring things, but they were pretty much the same thing. I mean, pretty much exactly the same thing. And nowadays you see something called the ISO, and you'll see it on if you have a DSLR camera and you have a cell phone also with some functions, you'll see that on both those types of, your DSLR and your cell phone. And it stands for the International Organization for Standardization, or International Standardization Organization, ISO. And so they basically have now come to that agreement that this film speed, but you don't really use film anymore, right? People don't really use film. Um, you can, they're all in agreement now. So now you'll basically only see ISO. But if you're buying very, very old film, you might see ASA on it. So what does that mean? In this particular camera here, for example, you can see this number over here that says 400. You can go to your menu and change. If you see that right down there in the yellow, you can see 200, 400, 800, 1600. Some phones have more capabilities because they're fancier, and um, the that's the ISO. I don't want to get too technical on film speed at the moment, but um, here, like I said, you have film speed that is either 64 through 125 or even 400. And you can see that the numbers are different depending on the time of day or what type of weather you have outside. And so the f stops here, all the f numbers, f11, f8, f5.6, that stuff is right up here. This is called the f-stop, the aperture, which works the aperture. And what is the aperture? The aperture is basically going to be something that functions in the cameras like your eyelid, or not your eyelid, your retina, where you see a little bit of light coming through there, right? And then as you open it up, because there's less light around you, your retina or your pupil, whatever, it opens up to see, more light. And so this controls how much light comes in and out of your camera for your picture, because you can't do too much. You can't take a picture with too much light and it just comes out all flooded with white, or you don't let enough light in and your picture comes out dark and you can't see anything. So all these functions, of course, are on manual control. You can't do that with automatic anything. And so the film speed can also, it helps you during the daytime, or when you have a lot of light, either in daytime or in a studio. Nowadays, with so many people having those vlogging lights, those circular lights, vlogging lights, that's a good source light. Flashlights, whatever lighting you have, whether it's a sun or indoor artificial kind of light that you have for whatever you're doing, that can help with your film speed. Shutter speed is something different. Now, the shutter speed on this camera is 125. So let's think of it this way. You are watching a NASCAR, right? You're right at the edge and the cars come by you, right? Everybody has seen those videos, right? We've all seen that. If you wanted to take a picture of those cars coming by you and your camera was able to take a picture, the shutter speed was fast enough that you could literally freeze the cars as they're coming at you at 200 miles an hour. Then you would see the cars completely frozen in time. But if you took a slower shutter speed, you would just see a blur. Okay, so that's the difference between the shutter speed. If you're watching a bird, you take a fast shutter speed, you can catch it in mid-wing flight. But if you don't have a fast enough shutter speed, it just becomes a blur, right? So that's what shutter speed can do. But as far as how light and how dark, that's going to be determined with your aperture. You can play around with that and the shutter speed and the film speed, and you can get different effects. But like I said, this here helps you decide, okay, I've got a 100 speed film like I did. I went to the beach and I took pictures, so I put it at f11. Okay, that's how I had it at f11. And if you go indoors, you might not be able to use this camera, because I've taken the settings on this particular camera with the settings on this one here, and even the 400 inside didn't work out too well, because if you're looking at 200 speed film, because this one can only go to 200, but I have 100 here, there is a difference, but not a huge astronomical difference. You can still play around with that. And so what I did here, for example, is that I had it on let me see, shutter speed, let me see, 125. Where is it? Okay, where are you? I'm gonna set it to 125, right? Just like the camera, 125. And then at 400, according to this, my f-stop should be 22. At 400 speed film, my f-stop should be 22. So we're going to go ahead and move that to 22. And you can see right here, it's moving. See how it moves up and opens and closes? You see that? I'm going to goof around with it a little bit. The iris of your eye, or the f-stop, is opening that up. So we're going to put that to 22. And we're going to take a picture here on the outside. Okay. And it comes out pretty good. Let me see. Can we see it? It's actually a little bit dark, to be honest with you. Okay, it's a little bit dark looking at it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the f-stop to open up a little bit more. I'm going to take it to 15 or 14. I'm going to take it to 14. That means, and yes, the funny thing is that the lower the number, okay, the lower this number, the bigger, you saw the camera, right? The lens, the bigger the iris opens, or the aperture. The higher the number, the lower or smaller the hole gets, the opening gets. So we went ahead and changed that. We opened up the aperture. We're still at 400. And now look at that. Much nicer. Much nicer. Look at that. Much, 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 much brighter. You saw the difference, right? Let's look at the last picture. See, you can see that it's a bit darker. Much brighter. Almost too bright, to be honest with you. It's almost washed out. But in any case, this is the kind of stuff that you can play with when it comes to the manual controls of this camera, and the simple kind of things that you need to understand when it comes to this particular camera. This is why it's more of a niche, kind of a fun thing. You buy 400 speed film, you kind of want to play with it. And as always, when it comes to manual stuff, you absolutely need to write everything down. Okay, like for example, I know that I went to the beach and I have 100 speed film and I put it at 11 or 16. I was playing around with 11 and 16. So 11 opens it up more, 16 closes it more, the aperture. And so when I look at my pictures, I'll know that, okay, one is brighter, one is darker. So if it's brighter, I had it at 11. If it's darker, I had it at 16, because it's, it's a smaller aperture. It might not make a huge difference, but sometimes it makes just that little hair of a difference. And so this is how you work this camera here. And like I said, this was considered to be extremely expensive, about $900 equivalent of today, because back then they didn't have cell phones that you could now throw into on your telescope or binoculars or whatever, or with a zoom. And they did have all these types of camera, but they were pretty expensive as well. And they were all, back then, they were all manual. I had the Pentax K1000, if any of you are old enough to remember that one. Whoo, that one was just one of the best beginner cameras, without question. Just absolutely, they must have sold like a bajillion of those things. And they were totally badass. And I used to develop my own black and white pictures. But we're talking like 30 years ago, man, when I was in high school. But in any case, I hope that my video was helpful in setting you up to see how this works. You should definitely, if you get into photography of some sorts for fun, you can, like I said, download some apps on your phone, see what you can do with your phone, before you start buying something like this, because they're not necessarily expensive. Like, this is a 15-year-old camera. This is the Nikon D40, but it doesn't have video capabilities. And as far as I'm concerned, my recommendation would be start a beginner. If you're going to buy one of these, get a beginner camera with the video, because that can cover any vlogging that you might want to do. And now you've covered more bases, because these are still like around $100 just for the body. And the lens can be like $30, $40, $50, depending on which one. There are much, much more expensive lenses for this one. $300 used, $900 used. Yeah, there's some incredible lenses for this camera. And this one still has incredible quality. This one here, it has a 110 film. So the negative is going to be quite small, very small. And unfortunately, for those of you that are too young to know this kind of stuff, If you have a small negative, when you start to blow it up, you start to see all the imperfections. You start to see all the pixels. Televisions, computer monitors, pictures, everything is all about pixels. How many pixels per square inch? You have 4K, you have all this kind of stuff because you have a lot more pixels within the 1 inch area. These older cameras, they didn't have as much, that's why we didn't have 4K, 5K, whatever you want to call it. And the smaller the negative and the bigger you blew up the picture, the more grain or pixels, the more grain you would see in the picture. And it's a cool effect as well. Like I said, it's a niche. It's sort of an artsy fartsy thing. It's for fun. I still gotta see what the pictures look like when I develop them, and I'll share that with you guys. Just to again, because it's an interesting concept here. Camera, uh, binocular, and the binoculars on this are just incredible, gorgeous, absolutely beautiful, clean, sharp focus all around. I think I gave it a nice big thumbs up in the review of this. And so, anyway, I hope my video was helpful and not too long and boring. And thanks again for watching my video.